Okay, let's start. Glad you're all here for a talk on building iOS apps for fun and profit. My name is Peter Friese. I'm working as a principal consultant here, and I'm involved with building mobile applications. So I thought for today, let's do something and develop a to-do list application in like 30 or 40 minutes. So are you all excited yet? Yeah! Well, no, me neither. Let's do something more exciting than just a to-do list application. Let's do something which you could use on a Friday. So you're out on a Friday looking for the nearest pub. Let's build that. So it will be lots of life hacking. I do have a working version of the code I will develop. So if all fails me, this should be fine. So let's get started. First of all, we need to create a new application in Xcode. So if you develop applications for iOS, you need to have access to the Apple developer account. So let's have a quick look at that. So you need to go to this nice little website. It tells you everything about the tools. It tells you where to get them. And you do need to have a Mac. Sorry? Well, no, because you can go on the App Store and you can look for Xcode. And as you can see, it's free. So you're free to download the tools. You're free to use them. However, if you want to deploy the applications that you build onto your phone, then you need to register. And this will cost you about £80 a year. And you have to renew this every year. If you don't, then your applications that you once developed and uploaded to the App Store will be taken off the App Store. So a nice way of Apple to make sure that they earn quite some money. Okay, so I already installed Xcode, obviously. So I'm going there, and I'm creating a new project. File, new project. And I'll create a new empty application. So we've got a really blank slate here. And the application is going to be called pubcrawl. And let's save it here. I choose to have a Git repository created for me. So that's your first application. Let's run it. In the background, the emulator starts up. Here it is. And as you can see, you can't see anything because it's an empty application. So let's fix that. I'm going to add what's called a table view controller. So a table view is something that you should be really familiar with because most of you have iPhones. And if you go, for example, to the mail application, then you will have a list of mails. And this is not a list, it's a table view. So, well, it's the way Apple calls it. So it's a table view. And the class to implement it is called table view controller. So I'm going to create a new one and create a new Objective-C class. And let's call it pop list view controller. And it's also already configured for being a UI table view controller. So I can select the subclass here. Next, I get to choose where to place the file. I just place it in the root directory of the project, and there we go. As we're using Xcode, it has a template, and so it fills in lots of stuff for you, some of which you might want to use, some of which you might not want to use. So, sorry. There are a few suggestions what you can do with it. Let's just implement a very basic table view. So I'm going to make sure that this table view actually is displayed. So I just added the class, and I now need to make sure that the table view will be used in my application. So I need to go to the application delegate, which is like the main class, and instantiate my view controller and start it here. But first of all, I need to import it. Yes. Up lists. View. Come on. Pub list view controller. So in Objective-C, in order to instantiate something, you do a little dance. So first you alloc the stuff you want to have, and then you init it. So first get some memory, then initialize.
Why is it underlined?
Because there seems to be a problem here. Unknown receiver. Did you mean published view controller? Yes, I did. So there we go. So now we've got it. Now we need a navigation controller, which makes sure that we have this nice sliding animation. So you know that you have the list, you tap on something, and something slides in. So let's do that. It's called UI Navigation Controller. And it has also an init method, but now I can provide a parameter and take the list view controller that I just built. And now that I have the navigation controller, I can assign it to the root window. So self.window.root view controller equals navigation controller. So there we are, nice little list. Let's provide a title for it. Self.title, no title. Well, let's not provide a title. But what we do want to do is display a little bit of data. So I'm going to make up some data. And for your benefit, I'm going to remove some of the stuff. So we only see what's really important here. So a table view delegate actually asks, well, your table view delegate will be asked by the table view, hey, how many sections do you have? How many cells do you have? And then for each cell that you promised you would have, you will be asked, so how will the cell look like? So you're being called back, like in Hollywood. So, and it's all prepared for you here. So we'll have one section, and let's have, for example, 17 rows. And then down here in table view cell for row at index path, we can configure the cell. So cell dot something is not working. That's funny. Okay, let's try it anyways. Vote failed. Yes. So how does it think it's a cell? So usually the table view cell should have a property text label, and there it is. Okay, you know what? You're currently experiencing why I call Xcode the IDE from hell. Let's use something more suitable. Let's use app code. Okay. So let's go there.
This is some other open source or?
It's not open source. No suggestions. No, there's something really borked. Okay, so text label dot texts.
So what was the problem now?
I don't know.
Doesn't it still in a great degree of confidence?
Well, maybe it's just the live coding situation. Okay, so let's assign a text, and let's assign a text string with format. So we want to make the text up, cell, person D. And we're getting the index path, and now we can use the row index path dot section. And let's try it. Oh, sorry. Oops. Oh yeah. So what I forgot to do is to register a cell. So let's do this. Table view register class UI table view cell class for cell reuse identifier cell. So down here, I'm requesting a cell with a reuse identifier. So in order to have a smooth scrolling experience in the table view controller will only have so many table view cells, so maybe like 10. And so every time it needs to display a new table view cell, it asks you to provide one, and then you can say, I'd like to dequeue one of the ones that I already produced so it can be reused. And then if you're scrolling and the cells go out of the window at the top, they can be reused at the bottom. So this is why we're using the dequeue reusable cell with identifier method down here, and we need to register a class which we want to reuse. And there you go. So that's a very simple implementation of the table view controller. So you can maybe guess how you can actually display real data. You need to have something in your class there and have an array with data, and then you can display it here. So we now need to fetch some data. So I prepared something, and I'm going to import a few classes now. So add files, and let me have a look. So we're importing one class for a model, which is the pub. So as we are in C land, we have header files and module files, which are the implementation files. So I'm defining the properties of the pub here. So it has a name, it has an address, it has a distance. We have to go until we are there, and it has a location. And where am I getting the data from? I'm using Foursquare. So Foursquare has a nice API. You can use it to search for venues. And so I'm using this API endpoint here and asking it to provide me just with pubs. So there is a category for pubs. That's quite easy. So, and yeah, you will be provided with data in this format. So you can see all the properties that you will have on the JSON that you receive. All right. So we've got the pub here. And now we need to have a class which actually provides the access to the API. So let's add that one. It's pubcrawl, the pubcrawl API client. So I'm using a library here, which is called AF Networking, and it's not yet in the project. So I need to add it to the project. So as many of you know, managing dependencies in projects can be a nightmare, and there is an entire industry building stuff like Maven and the like. And it's not much different in Objective-C land. So there is a thing called CocoaPods, which is basically a GitHub-driven approach to managing dependencies. So as most of the libraries that you will use in Objective-C for iOS development are on GitHub, those guys thought, why not have a dependency manager which uses a GitHub repository to manage all the metadata and pull the libraries from GitHub. So, and here it is. And it has a nice web UI. You can use it to search for stuff. For example, let's search for networking, AF networking. And you get a list of all the libraries which are called AF networking or something similar. You can also do this on the command line. Just pod search AF net, for example, and you get all the stuff with AFNet in it. Very handy. So, sorry?
It is standard.
No, you have to install it. So it's a Ruby gem. You have to install that one, and then it's very similar. No, feel free. Just if there are any questions, just ask. So it's very similar to Ruby gems actually. So for having Ruby gems, you also have to have the gem manager, and it's very similar to it. So I'm now going to jump over to the project and make it ready for being used with CocoaPods. So in order to do this, cd to pubcrawl, and then pod init, which will provide me with a basic pod file. And there we are. So throw this away, uncomment this, and then pod search AF networking, which will provide me handily with exact the specification I need to insert in my pod file, and there we go. So I'm now requesting to have AF networking with at least version 2.02. Go back to the command line, pod install, which will now download the AF networking library and all of the dependencies. It will create a new project just for the libraries, and it will also create a so-called workspace. A workspace is an organizational thing that you have in Xcode in order to manage multiple projects. And so it now tells me from now on, use pubcrawl workspace. Okay, so I now have to close the project here. And also here. And then, instead of opening Xcode proj, I'm opening Xe workspace. Open with appcode. In order to install a library like that manually, it would have taken me half an hour or more. And that was a simple library. So you can now see that the dependency has been resolved. And I have now two projects. So I've got my pods project where the library is contained within. So here is AF networking. And I've got the pub crawl project down here. So that's great. And now I can give you a little bit of background on why I need this HTTP session manager. I'm actually just using it to access the API. So it's basically my basic HTTP access class. And what I'm doing is I'm giving it the base URL up here. And when I initialize it, I'm using the base URL. And I'm also configuring the serialization because I'm receiving JSON. And I'm telling it how to particularly work with the JSON that I'm receiving. All right, so that's this. Now, let's do some aspect-oriented programming. So I would like to ask the pub, please, dear pub class, give me all of the pubs which are nearby. And for doing this, Objective-C has a construct which is called a category. So I can use a category to basically plug in new methods to any class that is within the runtime system. And by any class, I mean any class. So if you think that NSString, which is the basic class for dealing with strings, has not enough methods, just define some more. And like implement a method for counting all the i's in a string. Or invert the string or something. Or paint the string onto the screen. So this is what we're doing now. We're defining a category in order to implement a method which will use the API client in order to pull the data. And I've already prepared this. So I'm adding this from this little project here. So it's the data access thing here. So a category is defined like this. In the interface, you provide the name of the class you want to extend or enhance, and then you give the name of your category. So our category is named data access, and it is available on the pub. And now I can provide some methods I would like to have implemented, and so I provide a method which is called nearby pubs result. So in Objective-C, the method names are a little bit funny because usually you would write something like public some result, pointer, method name, string param1, int param2, and so on. This method in Objective-C talk would look like this, minus, because it's an instance method, result pointer method string p1, and then you need to give another name with another name like that. So you end up with speaking names of the method names. And the name of the method is actually method with another name. So for speaking them out, you just chain those parts. So it has two parameters, param1 and param2. That's how it looks like. Yeah, kind of. So yeah, those who have experience with Smalltalks feel at home, I guess. Okay, so, and here is the implementation for it. And that's why I didn't code it live, because I think I would have made lots of mistakes here. For example, typing in the secrets. So what it does, actually, is we do want to invoke this URL up here, provide some parameters, for example, the secrets. And this, for example, is the category ID for the pub category, so it goes somewhere down here. And I also want to provide the latitude and longitude, which goes here. And so as you can see, this string here is interspersed with variable replacements. So every time you put %at in it, it means resolve the object reference and try to get a string from it and just place it here. If you have an integer, it's %d. Okay, hope I didn't break it. So, yeah. So it will then use our pubcrawl API client down here and invoke the get method on it using the path that we just constructed using the URL and all our parameters. And then it will either return successfully, so if you get anything which is HTTP error code 200 and above, it will end up in this part here. And if it's a failure, it will end in here. So the whole thing, starting with this little roof here, is called a block. So it's kind of a closure, because inside you have access to what's outside, but we're not currently using that. We're just using it because it's a nice construct in order to speak with an asynchronous API than using a delegate approach. So before that, before having blocks, you would have to implement several callback methods down here. And so if you imagine that, for example, you have a list where you not only fetch data in terms of strings that you want to display, but also some images, then you have several HTTP connections going on. And in your callback methods, you need to decide, okay, so which cell was it for? And is it the text or is it the image? And using a block approach, it's much easier because the code is so localized and it's just in this little spot there. So we do get back some JSON, which is in the response object. And so we need to then dig in this JSON string in order to navigate it and find the venues that we're interested in. So let's try and run this. And in order to run it, I'm going to use it here. So I do want to use the pub. Yes, please import nearby pubs. I'm passing in nil as a location because I made sure that if I pass in nil, it will take this location. And then I need to provide the block. Bam. That's one of the advantages of using Xcode. Just press double enter and it fills in the code for you. So I'm getting back an array, and let's log how many pubs we have. And also the string with the pubs. Oh, it's called pubs.count. So let's hope I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, there we go. So number of pubs in the vicinity, 2. Oh, it's down here. And here are they. Let's have a look at them. So I'm setting a breakpoint. And let's run using the debugger. So down here I've got my debug inspector. I can see I've got an array with 2 elements in it. There's the first one. And I can't see what's in there, so let's go to the debugger console. PO for print object, pubs at index 0, well, dot name. Oh, it can't pass. Well, okay. You have to believe me for a moment. We will see it later. I'd like to point out one little thing here. So when we...
When did this weaving happen to weave the category into the
that happens at runtime. Because Objective-C will resolve the method pointers just at runtime. So it's dynamic dispatch.
Okay.
Yeah, how is that aspect sorted?
Well, it was like maybe name dropping to call it aspect oriented.
Oh, but it is aspect oriented. I mean, it's correct. It's the right concept. But the debugger works at runtime, so it should see the attributes that you've woven in, right?
I agree. But then, well, it sometimes does. For example, at this point, I'm pretty sure it can see. Because the thing is, let's try it here. So, I guess it needs to have more type information. So let's have a look. Oh no. Well, sorry. In Xcode, there is an option to just print out the value of a variable, and that usually works. So. Well, I'm guessing it just doesn't have enough type information here, but usually it should.
We had the same problems with aspect J when we did that with Java.
Yeah. Well, and actually, the reason that it's not displaying the properties of the pub doesn't have to do with our using the category, because we were trying to see one of the basic attributes of the pub, didn't we? Which were defined here.
Oh,
so there's doesn't have to do anything with the category. Yeah, so sometimes, yeah, please.
So I'm a bit confused about why you didn't just put those methods on this.
Because why I didn't put them here?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to separate them from the data holder class. Because what I'm doing basically is implement something which is similar to a repository. So I'm trying to implement those data access classes somewhere in order to be able to perform CRUD operations on my repository. And so I thought it might be a nice idea to have them in a separate class from the class that actually transports the data itself. Uh-huh.
Why then weave them together? Having decided you want them separate, why then at runtime mention them together?
There are 2 reasons for it. First one being demonstrate the concept. Second one being that's actually the way we do it in Objective-C land. That's really common, really.
everybody does something that is silly, you shouldn't do it.
Beg your pardon.
On this one, because you would use aspects whenever you want to weave the same sort of methods into a large number of different classes, right?
Right.
So when you want to give
especially when you don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to come from somewhere else, but you know that they're going to have some particular characteristic. But this is all under our control. So
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But well, you use categories in a variety of situations. For example, you use them in order to split up classes because you want to have various responsibilities split out into separate source code entities. So for example, you do want to have all the data access responsibilities in one class, or everything that has to do with one algorithm in one class. Or for example, if you have a really huge form, then maybe you do want to have things that have to do with the upper half of the form in one class and with the lower half in another class. So that's all reasons for using categories in Objective-C.
does Objective-C have single inheritance?
Yes, it does.
So in that use case, you're using this as mixins.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. And in addition, there is a problem with categories because you can only define methods. You can't define attributes. In order to do that, and I'm sure you'll be jumping at me if I tell you what you can do, usually you will use class annotations. So you basically are using the fact that you can attach a bag to any class, and this bag is a hash map, and you can put in anything you want. So if I do want to use a category in order to implement a property, I will use a bag in order to store this and then access that.
I'm a small talk, so I'm perfectly happy with that. I want every object to have an arbitrary
Yeah.
thing, that's fine. But this seems weird to me. It's like is pub a dumb data transfer object, or is it a thing that has functionality?
Well, yeah, the pub itself is dumb, but using this one, we can add functionality. And maybe it was...
To me, like, this is a visitor here, so you visit this pub with this category, which adds functionality to whatever data you
Yeah.
have, isn't it? You visit each of these objects, extract data from them.
So let's step back a minute from this discussion. I agree that it might not be the best pattern to use here. And actually, at the end of this coding session, I'm going to tell you that you can develop applications like that in this manner, but they're totally untestable if you do that. So you should develop them in a different fashion and use dependency injection and make them more testable. Because later you will see that the controller will be full of stuff which should be factored out to other classes. But given the short time frame, that's the way we will do that. Okay, so so we did fetch the data, and let me have a look at our time. So we've got a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes maximum left. So let's go into our table view and actually use this here in order to display the data there. So taking it out here. And let's go over to the table view controller. And implement a method load data. So I'm now fetching the data, and when this is successful, I do want to store it in a local property. So now I have a property in the class which can hold my pubs. And as soon as I have done this, I'm telling the table view controller, well, the table view, to reload its data, to basically refresh the screen. And obviously, I should update these methods here. Sorry, self pubs.count. And down here, let's get the cell. Pub is self.pubs at the index of index path.row. Look, it knows about the attributes. Pub.address. Okay. So this should be fine, and we need to make sure that we actually invoke load data as soon as the view did load. Okay, let's try it. There you go.
Yeah.
Not bad, is it?
How does it, you said nil means where I am currently, is there some code that...
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah, there was. So I pre-initialized it with the latitude and longitude of our office. Okay, so
Is there a chance to actually take the current location?
there is, and we're going to do this in a minute.
Okay.
So I need to grab some code. And add it to a table view controller. So we first of all, we need to have a property for the location manager, which we'll use to fetch us the current location. And then the location manager has a callback, which will fire every time we're moving and we receive a location update. So we're saving this location in another property here. And then we need to make sure to implement the CL location manager delegate. Like that. And then we will need to change the load data method. So if we don't have a location yet, we do want to start gathering locations. And if we do have a location, we can fetch data. Okay. I'm not quite sure if I actually added. So in order to provide location, we need to use Xcode because Xcode has a facility to fake locations or to provide synthetic locations. So I created some GPX files, which I will use for this. So it's empty, and now I'm going to provide a location. So let's provide Johannesburg. this didn't work. Sorry. Okay, so there is something wrong.
Did you actually save the changes you made in the other?
Yes, I did. So I probably forgot some tiny detail. Yeah, so it's probably I didn't link with the location. Yeah, there it is. So I need to link with the location library with call location. You know what? I'm taking the fallback route. So this is at work. And let's go to the Gransby, which is too close, so it doesn't fire an update. So let's go somewhere else. Let's go to Moscow. It should be far enough. Well, you know, this is really funny because it did work exactly with this one. Let's run it again. This is really, well, I don't know what's going on here. They should have, oh yeah, there you go. Oh, I know what's going on. So I limited the radius. I said it was only just 120 meters. So that's not enough. So, yeah.
That's not a proper pub crawl.
Well, no, the idea being limited to the amount you would want to walk, so maybe 100 or 200 meters, and then if you are there, you go 100 or 200 meters in the other direction. Okay.
In London.
Well, in London.
In Moscow it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. So to wrap things up, in this version of the app that I'm currently running, I did implement another view in order to display the map where the pub actually is. So this is what the maps view looks like. So we've got a nice interface builder in here that you can use for stuff like that. And so as you drag in a maps view, you will then have to hook it up to your source code, and you do this by using outlets, which are displayed here. And there is a nice view, which if you have a larger screen, you can actually use like that. So, and now let's go to the header file. You can see the little dot here, which tells me, if I hover over it, that this property, map view, actually is bound to this view class. And I can redefine it, new referencing outlet, like this. Yeah. Yeah, it looks fancy, but to be honest, it can be a pain. So what do we need to do in order to navigate from the lists to this view? So inside the pub list view controller, we need to provide another method. So I'm fetching the currently selected pub. I instantiate the maps view controller. I'm assigning the pub to the maps view controller, and then I'm pushing the view onto the navigation controller. So that was the one that we created in the application delegate. And I'm asking it to use the standard animation. And inside the Maps view controller, nothing much is going on except for making sure that we, that we hook up this class to the Maps view, that we ask it to show our own location and watch for location updates. And if we get a location update, we're placing a marker on the map pointing out the location of the pub. So let's have a look at that. And let's go back to London maybe. So there you go. That's it. So a couple of live coding. Nice discussion about the worth of using categories in order to mimic aspect-oriented programming, and whether or not that was the right approach to enhance the pub class, but you can. And with that, so if you're interested in using this application, I can provide it for you. The thing is, you can only register so many devices for a developer account. So Apple limits the amount of test devices that you can register for a developer account to 100 devices per year. So whenever you roll over, you can throw out the old devices that you don't use anymore. But if you add a new device, then this period is over. So if you're interested, you need to provide me with your UDID. So I wrote something on my blog how to get this. So what's your number? Just look for that. It explains you how to get the UDID. And as soon as I've got that, I will add it to the Apple developer provisioning portal. So let's have a look at that, how it looks like. So Apple is really good at creating nice IDEs and wonderful operating systems, and they totally screw up at creating websites. So this is the portal, and I need to add your UDID here. And as soon as I've done that, I can create a development provisioning profile for this app and sign the app with the provisioning profile. And as soon as I've done that, I can then upload it to a test flight app, which is a nice portal for distributing development time artifacts to your testers. So just to give you a brief glance at it, so we used it in order to distribute the TV movie application. And so if we look in here, we should see all of our builds. And you see all the persons that are registered for this application and can run it on their devices. You will also see the latest changes. So you can use Jenkins in order to take your commit comments and push them up here, so they will be listed. That's really nice. So you have nice release notes there. And in the activities view, you can see who actually received an email stating that there is a new version of the app, and who opened the application, and who started the application. And you can also insert breadcrumbs into your application. So every time someone actually uses the application and comes across the checkpoint, you will see it here. So you can see if your testers are really using and testing your application. So it's really, really nice. And it's free to use. So that's it. You're welcome.